time since the verdict, we're hearing from the people who set this historic case into motion. That's right, the neighbors in Sissonville who saw something that didn't look right, and they did something about it.
Yeah, it was their calls for concern that ultimately led to the arrests and eventual convictions. Anna Saunders joins us live in the studio with that story tonight. Anna.
Well, Peyton, Gina, it's become a universal tagline for reporting crime. See something, say something. And that's exactly what the neighbors and a home health worker in Sissonville did multiple times in the span of 6 months. If it hadn't been for them sounding the alarms, it would be hard to say where this case and where these kids would be today.
911, where is your emergency?
I'm not sure who I talked to about this. It's more of like a wellness check on children.
That's your communications.
But there is a family that we have been calling CPS on multiple times. He has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding.
When Donald Lantz, Jeanne Whitefeather, and their 5 adopted kids moved to Sissonville in May of 2023 from Washington, they bought a house sight unseen on Cheyenne Lane. The neighbors will tell you the red flags were immediate.
I think it started because the children really wouldn't talk to us. They would look at the parents first before they'd ever say anything. And then some of the different things that they said kind of red flagged us, oh, we thought we'd be more secluded out here.
But it was what they started to see that concerned them the most. The kids doing constant manual labor in the yard, using a porta potty outside. And if the kids weren't working, they were standing still in a line. Miller said they often were in the same clothes and that she never saw them go into the house, always outside in all weather. And the people of Cheyenne Lane all began to take notice.
So they'd be like, hey, I have not seen these kids change. Have you seen these kids change? Nope, they're wearing the same thing from yesterday that they were, or they're from 5 days ago that they had on. So it was an evolving, you don't want to be suspicious of people, but you are when you start noticing those different details every day are the same thing.
By late May, Miller had placed the first call to the CPS hotline and then called for a welfare check. She said on one night in particular, when they left for the entire day, they came back and the kids were in the same spot, which prompted the call.
And we actually think they may be sleeping in the barn.
Her husband even confronted Lantz about it. He testified during trial that he told Lantz he was watching him, to which Lantz responded he was watching him too. We know from trial that CPS did make a visit in late May to the house, a visit where a heads up was given to the family that they were coming and where the kids testified that they did not tell the truth to the CPS worker because they were afraid. From then on, the calls for concern continued, and the neighbors began noticing that the kids weren't outside in their usual spot as much.
People saying, well, we need evidence. We need you to video this, or we need to just knowing that it's happening but not getting any help. I know police need evidence, and I know, but it just feels like you could be able to do more when you know it's going on.
And then came the growing suspicions that the kids were being locked in a shed. Candace Hilbert, who is not a neighbor but worked with a family in the area for 3 days a week, was also in tune with what was going on.
It just broke my heart, and I just turned so angry. I couldn't believe that I was witnessing that, to be honest, with children.
But they also started noticing and hearing that the family was planning to move to a more secluded house in Beckley. Concerned that they would lose their chance, Hilbert says the opportunity that they were all waiting for finally came on October 2nd, where she watched Lantz lock the shed and drive off.
I seen him open the barn door up, and either he whispered to them or he was just making sure that they were still in there at that time, and then he locked it back. And I was standing there watching him the whole time. And he stood there and stared at me for probably 5-7 minutes. Like, what are you going to do about it?
So when he left in the van, what she did do about it was call the non-emergency line.
He has 2 kids locked in an outbuilding. They've been in there for days.
And that was the call that led to this.
You're okay. You're not in trouble. You're okay.
The rescue from the shed, the arrests of Whitefeather and Lantz, and an investigation and a trial that ultimately led to the historic human trafficking convictions for Whitefeather and Lantz.
Guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking.
Miller and Hilbert and 3 other neighbors testified during trial. Miller says they knew what they knew going in, but the evidence that came out in the end from the videos of the kids inside to what the kids endured, she said it was far worse than anything they thought.
Once the verdict came through, I think for all of us up this road, it felt like a weight was lifted off of our backs. Like, we did the right thing. The kids have a chance now, and we can move on.
They could have looked the other way and given up. They could have assumed that what they were thinking and seeing wasn't the whole story. Their message for anyone having those same thoughts: make the call anyway.
You know, we're the voices to those kids. And that's the God honest truth.
You're not going to come to West Virginia thinking that we're not going to care about kids. Sorry, we're not just rednecks or hicks or, you know, that doesn't watch out for one another. The biggest thing about West Virginia is we all love one another, and we're going to notice when you're doing something wrong, and we're going to stick up for those people.
Now, Whitefeather and Lantz are looking at decades in prison. They will be sentenced in mid-March. Live in the studio, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
Thanks so much for watching. Here's another video from Eyewitness News. Just click right here to subscribe to our channel and make sure you hit that bell notification to get the very latest.